Hey everyone, Mitch coming in with the Creatur Studio. Welcome to the show. So a few things. Number one, if you didn't see that intro, make sure you check it out because I do have a Kickstarter for a brand new card game that I have been working on for years that is going to be coming out soon. So make sure you follow that Kickstarter. I'll put the link in the description below and in the comments probably too. Regardless, also incredibly exciting, obviously, and what most of you are here for. We've got Bloomburrow Spoilers season finally is here, and a spoiler season for once in a while that has not been like leaked to death. So with all that said, let's jump into the exciting spoilers that we saw already today. So first up, and speaking of leaks, I believe this one might have been leaked. I don't think I covered it, but this one might have been leaked, so I'll go through this one really quick. But here we go. The 3-tree city legendary land as it enters, and again, I believe they switched off enters the battlefield to just enters now. Choose a creature type, tap for a color, pay 2 tap, choose a color, add an amount of mana of that color equal to the number of creatures you control the chosen type. Okay, Chatterfang fans out there, have fun with that one. Yeah, if you are in a tribal deck that is like, go wide with that tribe, have fun. My goodness, the crazy amount of mana you can get this. It's kind of like Nykthos Shrine to Nyx. I think that's the name of that one, right? Where that one's like based off of devotion. This one's more specific to a creature type, but again, if you have a tribal deck, yeah, you probably are going wide with that creature. Now, some more than others, like dragons, you probably have a couple in play. I mean, some dragon decks can go crazy, right? But like if you've got squirrels, if you've got warriors, if you've got wizards, I mean, you can go wider a lot quicker with certain types of strategies out there. So this can give you an absurd amount of mana. Also, it's legendary. Keep that in mind. So yeah, legendary matters decks as well can consider this too. Very, very, very good card. I can definitely see this one being a chase card in the set because, yeah, tribal decks are incredibly, incredibly popular. So this card is probably going to be incredibly popular too. Next up, Plume Creed Mentor, a 2/3 bird scout for 3 mana in Azorius with flying. Whenever it and other creature you control with flying enters, put a counter on target creature you control with flying. Without flying, I should say. And also, I do shorthand sometimes. ++1 counters just do counters, okay? But yes, being able to get counters from your flying creatures onto non-flying creatures, it's pretty specific. If you do have like a complete like flyers deck, you usually have like all your creatures have flying. Typically, with those kinds of decks out there. There might be certain decks out there where you like have a bunch of flyers, like a flying men type strategy, where you maybe could utilize this to like pump your commander, which doesn't have flying potentially. I'm sure there's some weird combo things you could do this too, but yeah, anyways, it's pretty specific. Probably not really for most commander decks out there. Next up, Castrol the Wind Crested, a commander itself. 4/3 legend creature bird scout for 5 mana in Azorius flying. Whenever one or more birds you control deal combination to a player, choose one. You may put a bird creature card from your hand or graveyard on the battlefield, a finality counter on it. Interesting. So reanimation, but potentially temporary because, again, that finality counter, basically if that creature leaves, it just goes away permanently in exile. Put a counter on each bird you control or draw a card. All of which are very, very good, it seems like. Again, one or more birds deal combination to a player. So that is limited to 1 per each player. So again, in Commander, typically you get like 3 triggers out of this. That being said, you can choose the same one more than once. So if you want to reanimate 3 things, great. Get 3 cards, 3 counters, whatever you want. Any combination of all those, cool. That being said, of course, I mean, I would say extra combats, but you're not really in colors for extra combats. You can get extra turns, obviously. That's pretty apparent that that would still work, though. But yes, Double Strike would also work. You do have a lot of good, like, True Conviction, I think is the card, right? That gives all your creatures Double Strike. So have fun doing that and doing it twice per each creature that's hitting, or per each player that is hit, I should say. Yeah, I mean, this could be a good commander, obviously. Good for the 99 of a bird tribal deck as well. And, of course, yeah, I guess Changeling tribal as well. Next up, we've got Seedglaive Mentor, a 3/2 mouse soldier with vigilance and haste for 3 mana in Boros. Valiant. Whenever it becomes the target of a spell or ability you control for the first time each turn, wizards, put a counter on it. I guess, I mean, Valiant is probably a different kind of take on heroic, but weaker, it seems like, because, again, it's, well, I mean, I can't remember if heroic's only you control or not, but at the very least, it's only, you know, first time each turn, which is, man, I mean, maybe it's just limited to this one. We shall see. Regardless, this is a more limited card, I would say. Next up, we've got Flowerfoot Swordmaster, a 1/2 mouse soldier for a single white mana. Offspring 2, which is a brand new mechanic. I'll show you the token here in a little bit. You may pay an additional 2 as you cast this spell. If you do, when a creature enters, you get a 1/1 copy of it. It's kind of like, what was that from Warhammer's, like, Squad? Is that what it was? It's kind of like that, but not repeatable. You can only do that with one time, like, pay an additional 2, so it's like Kicker, you get an extra copy of this creature, except it's a 1/1 always. This one's, like, close to it because it's a 1/2, but I'm sure there's going to be bigger creatures out there. That being said, it also has Valiant, which becomes a target of a spell ability you control the first time you turn. Mice you control get +1/+0 until end turn. So keep in mind, that token version, which I believe I have next, there we go, does have that as well. Again, it is a 1/1, so keep that in mind. Obviously, these token versions can work really well with, like, populate effects, because especially if you have other, like, not bigger ones, like power and toughness wise, because they're all going to be 1/1s, but if you have bigger effects on them, like when it enters, you get this, that kind of thing. Like if you have, like, when it enters, you draw a card, when it enters, you destroy something. Populating that could be quite nice, getting extra token copies of them. And yeah, there's just certain types of decks out there, like Brutaclad, which likes token copies of creatures already. So, I mean, this one can't fit in Brutaclad, and it wouldn't be that great in Brutaclad, but other ones might be, so keep that in mind when it comes to this Offspring stuff. Next up, we've got Waren War Leader, and my apologies, because when I was screenshotting these, when I was watching the video and trying to screenshot them as quickly as I could, some parts, obviously, like that highlighted text right there, it says off. Yeah, right there, like that's highlighted. Don't worry about that. It is the actual card. It's just screenshot the wrong time. Anyways, 4/4 Rabbit Knight for 4 mana in white. Offspring 2. Whenever you attack, choose 1. Create a 1/1 white rabbit creature token that's tapped. Attacking or attacking creatures you control get +1/+1 until end turn. So obviously getting extra token copies of this, I mean, 1 more if you pay an extra 2, is going to be very beneficial to you, because with that attacking as well, you get extra rabbits or extra pump, and obviously that's a Rabbit Knight as well, so that can help out too. So yeah, this is quite nice, being able to, yeah, build up an army quite quickly, especially if you are able to pay that Offspring cost to get the copy of it. That's just a 1/1, and obviously, again, if you can populate that and you are in, we shall see if, like, this is mostly a white mechanic or if it spreads to other colors as well. Maybe white-green is what I would think. But yeah, populate works really well in white, populate in green as well. Yeah, and here's the token copy of it again. That is a 1/1. So it's a little more apparent to this one. The other one was like a 1/2 turning into a 1/1, or put the token. This one is a 4/4. Now you just get a little tiny, cute, adorable, hey, we got a little tiny club thing, whatever. 1/1 Rabbit Knight Waren War Leader. Same name and all that kind of stuff too, so keep that in mind as well. There's some things that work with that. And it does remind us, this token's mana cost is 2 white, because it is technically a copy of it. But again, it is just a 1/1, so it's the only difference. But because it's a copy of it, it does keep that mana value. So keep that in mind for things like Devotion, etc., etc. Or like destroy all creatures with, you know, mana value less than or greater. That kind of thing too. Next up, Phineas Ace Archer. I think we've seen this art. I don't think we've seen the card yet, though. A 2/2 Rabbit Archer for 2 mana in Selesnya. Does this remind anyone else of the... oh gosh, like Robin Hood. I think it was a Disney version with like a fox. Anyways, we're moving on. Vigilance Reach. Whenever it attacks, put a counter on each other creature control that's a token or a rabbit. Interesting. Then if creatures control power 10 or greater, total power, draw a card. Yeah, I mean, you can definitely go like Rabbit Tribal with this. It is nice that this does have Vigilance, so you can swing freely. It does say each other creature, so you're not including this one. This one's not growing, so you do need some ways to protect it. Is it like Dolmen Gate? I can't remember. There's certain cards that like protect your attacking creatures, or just like indestructibility on this, or unblockability on this. Obviously could be very nice as well, because you really want to keep attacking with this to get the value out of it. Yeah, getting counters on the other creatures is very nice. You can go Rabbit Tribal, or you can just go probably more likely. It depends on how much support, obviously, we get for rabbits in this set. We're probably going to get a decent amount, but still, like, it's probably more impactful to, like, extend outside of just rabbits by, you know, utilizing cards that make a ton of soldiers out of nowhere, etc., warriors, and so they, like, secure the waste, that kind of stuff. So, yeah, being able to just quickly get a lot of power on those creatures, and, yeah, I mean, just a nice little additional benefit, like, draw a card, sure. Like, I mean, you're going to easily get to 10 power with your total number of creatures in play and the total power that they have. So keep that in mind. Yeah, it's a interesting low to the ground creature. Of course, there's some like +1 counter synergies you can work with too. It's a very interesting commander. Anyways, moving on. Valley Quest Scholar, a 2/3 Rabbit Warrior for 2 mana in white. Whenever one or more other rabbits, bats, birds, and or mice, I combine the last two, you control, enter, scry 1. Again, it is 1 or more, so keep that in mind. So if you have like, I make this many of this, you're only getting 1. That being said, if you individually are having them come into play, you are scrying a ton, which is great additional card selection. Not card advantage, but card selection. On top of that, other rabbits, bats, birds, and mice, got it right this time, you control get ++1. So that's quite nice, being able to, well, have a Anthem effect and also a card selection, there we go, engine for you. I mean, pretty specific for the types that it has. You obviously are going to have a lot of support in this set for those types, most likely. That being said, I mean, this is just a slam dunk in, well, changeling tribal type decks, tribal lords type decks. Decks that are like, hey, I've got Masquerade Nexus in play, all my creatures are all creature types, and all of a sudden, whenever anything comes into play, I'm scrying 1. All my creatures get a giant Anthem effect as well. Not giant, but, you know, low to the ground, great Anthem effect for this one, too. So, yeah, a really good card for those types of strategies out there. Next up, we've got Parting Gust. We have seen this one. This one we have seen. Instant for white, gift a tap fish. Exile a non-token creature. If the gift wasn't promised, return the creature to the battlefield or to its control they counter on the beginning of the next end step. Basically, with this brand new, and again, apologies for like the screenshot with the green right there in the gift, but yes. Basically, you can choose to say, hey, I give you a 1/1 fish. It's into play tapped, I believe. So yeah, you get a tap fish. Cool. Have fun. It's a 1/1 fish. It's blue. Congratulations. Now, because of that, I can actually get rid of that creature permanently. So, again, you can gift one opponent the fish and take out another player's creature, or you can just not gift anyone anything and just actually use this as a blink spell too. So it's a very flexible card. Already covered it, but still, it's interesting to see that this one is actually real. So there you go. Like, again, we had like a couple of leaks. All of them seem to be real so far, but I'm glad that the set isn't actually leaked ahead of time, like, you know, Modern Horizons 3, which is like the entire set is leaked. Crazy. Okay, moving on if I go the right way. Next up, Seer Mentor, a 3/5 Bat Warlock with Flying and Vigilance for 5 mana in Orzhov. Beginning of your end step, if you gain or lost life this turn, target opponent loses 3 life unless they sacrifice a non-land permanent or discard a card. I mean, that's a decently punishing effect. It is on a 5 mana creature. I mean, if you have like a life gain strategy that's consistent against just your end steps only once, you get like a, I mean, like a mini, like, you know, hey, okay, lose 3 life or sacrifice something or discard a card. They're going to pick whatever most beneficial to them out of all those 3, or which is least detrimental, I should say. So it's like a mini Torment of Hailfire, like, throughout the game. That being said, it's a good amount of mana investment for that. I don't think it makes the cut in most life gain strategies out there. Next up, Moira? Don't know. Trash Tactician. I love that raccoons are being called, like, I mean, this is like Trash Panda. That's like what, I mean, they're Trash Pandas. It's great. Love it. 2/4 Raccoon Warrior for 3 mana in Gruul. Beginning of your first main phase, add red or green for each raccoon you control. Yeah, Changeling Tribal's gonna love this, because again, everything's a raccoon. Yes, obviously, with this as a commander, though, Raccoon Tribal, you get a ton of mana. Absolutely amazing. Keep in mind, though, we've got a new mechanic on this one. Whenever you expend 4, you gain 3 life. And expend 4 as you expend 4 as you spend your 4th total mana to cast spells during a turn. Just to cast spells, keep that in mind. It is, again, on any turn. Not just your turn, any turn. So if you spend 4 mana to cast a spell, I mean, once you spend your 4th mana, I guess. So, like, you spend 3 to cast 1 spell, 1 to cast another, that counts. So, by doing that, again, on any turn, just spending mana, which this gives you, you know, mana on your turn, cool. You gain 3 life. That's nice. So there can be some synergies there with that life gain. On top of that, though, whenever you expend 8, exile the top 2 cards of your library until the end of your next turn, you may play those cards. That's quite nice. I can definitely see this commander being like an Expelled Tribal type commander, because it's like, okay, yeah, I get a ton of mana out of this, potentially, and then I also just spend a ton of mana, and I, you know, Impulse Draw 2, essentially, while also getting some life as well. Yeah, I mean, it's going to be difficult for you to, like, expend 8 on multiple turns, but if you do that, even more card advantage for you, so keep that in mind. Temporary card advantage, too, but it's a very spicy commander. I like that a lot. Moving on. Fireglass Mentor, a 2/1 Lizard Warlock for 2 mana in Rakdos. I don't know why I slipped on there. At the beginning of your second main phase, if an opponent lost life this turn, exile a top 2 cards of your library, choose one of them. Until end of turn, you may play that card. That's nice. Yeah, opponents losing life on this turn is quite easy, obviously. There's plenty of ways to do that in Rakdos especially. You just like need like 1 pinging or 1 life loss effect to get that. Or, you know, obviously in combat that could help you too, because this is second main phase. So exiling the top 2, you only get 1 of them. Keep that in mind, though, that you do lose that other one like permanently. That's just gone. It's not like go to the bottom of your library. No. You can play that card, though, so keep that in mind as well. That is play, not cast, which is better because that includes lands. You can actually play a land. You cannot cast a land, so keep that in mind. I mean, like, like an impulse draw type deck might want to consider this, like one that cares about casting things from exile. But also, maybe more so, it could be just like a decent engine for you in like a group slug type strategy where you're like, okay, like I've got an upkeep trigger or like a tap ping effect that always I can ensure that I will be able to hit an opponent with this, so they will be losing life. Next up, Camellia the Seed Miser. Camellia, whatever it is. 3/3 Squirrel Warlock for 3 mana in Golgari. Menace. Other squirrels you control have Menace. Whenever you sacrifice one or more foods, create a 1/1 squirrel creature token. Pay 2, forage, put a counter on each other squirrel you control. There's got to be some kind of a weird combo in here with like making foods, making squirrels at the same time, and then sacrificing them. Actually, yeah, we'll talk about that here in a little bit because I think there's another commander that might work with this one. Interesting. But yes, forage is exiling 3 cards from your graveyard or sacrificing a food. That's interesting. I think that's a new mechanic as well. Yeah, I mean, Squirrel Tribal, giving your Squirrel's Menace is quite nice. And also, I guess, like, Squirrels plus food, kind of tribal synergy deck where you are getting things out that are food, sacrificing them, making squirrels, and getting them larger, you know, by foraging, essentially, by either sacrificing more foods or exiling 3 cards from your graveyard. So, yeah, and again, that's not like it's not a tap effect on that one, so you can just, like, save up a bunch of mana and then right before your turn, like, forage a ton to make your army massive. Can be quite nice. I mean, Chatterfang might want to consider this one as well, just because it gives your squirrels Menace, essentially, even if you're not, like, really utilizing food synergies. And also, like, getting counters on your squirrels, too, like, from things at your graveyard can be quite nice. So, yeah, definitely good in the 99 of that kind of a deck, but also an interesting commander in its own right. Next up, Squirrelmancer Adept. I probably got that wrong. 2/2 Squirrel Warlock with Death Touch for 2 mana in black. Again, apologies for the screenshot with the highlighted text. Tap until end of turn. You may cast creature spells from your graveyard by foraging, in addition to paying their other costs. If you cast a spell this way, that creature enters with a finality counter on it. Interesting. So again, exiling 3 cards or sacrificing a food. I mean, that's interesting. Like, kind of like a not reanimation type effect, because you are casting those creatures still. Like, you still have to pay the mana cost for those creatures. Like, unless it's like an Ornithopter, which technically paid still, but it's a 0. Being able to just, like, mass get back a lot of things out of your graveyard, you do need a good amount of other things in your graveyard to do so. Again, because you have to forage for 3 things out of your graveyard, exile those, pay the cost to cast the actual creature spell. It comes with a finality counter on it, so it's, like, limited to, like, not being too broken, essentially. Because if that creature leaves, it goes away permanently. I guess if it would die, exile instead. I messed that up earlier, so my apologies on that. But yeah, if you bounce it back to your hand or, you know, blink it or whatever, then it's fine. That being said, yeah, you could also have a bunch of food in play that you, instead of, you know, getting rid of things in your graveyard, you can utilize that. So yeah, food type decks could definitely utilize this as a great way to, like, get things right out of their graveyard very, very easily. That being said, other than that, like, mass mill decks can utilize this too, like just filling your graveyard with a ton of things, including creatures, of course. Tap this, be like, oh, okay, cool, I'll cast this, I'll cast this, I'll cast this. And then all of a sudden, yeah, you've got a good amount of army, but you got rid of some cards in your graveyard. That's okay, though. Yeah, Squirrel deck, Warlock deck might want to consider as well if those things exist. Cool. So yeah, I mean, I guess Chatterfang could definitely consider this one too. Next up, Tidecaller Mentor, a 3/3 Rat Wizard with Menace for 3 mana. Indemir. Threshold, whenever it enters, if 7 or more cards are in your graveyard, return up to 1 target non-land permanent to its owner's hand. Yeah, I mean, ETB, potentially bounce something. Nice. Is it going to see play outside of Limited? Probably not. Moving on. Next up, Alania Divergent Storm, a 3/5 Otter Wizard for 5 mana. And is it, whenever you cast a spell, if it's the first instant spell, the first source spell, or the first Otter spell of that Alania you cast this turn, you may have target opponent draw a card. Okay, if you do copy that spell, there we go. I was like, you get to draw a card and nothing else. Group hug. Anyways, no. If you do copy that spell, starts the copy. Yeah. That's very, very good. Because, I mean, just being able to just say, like, okay, yeah, sure, I give you a card, doesn't matter all that much compared to, like, being able to copy an instant or sorcery, especially since certain things out there exist, like, you know, extra turn spells. Yeah, if you literally just do extra turns deck with this, you probably win after you cast your first one, because all of a sudden you're just literally just going like, oh, okay, cool, yeah, cast my spell, copy it, I take 2 extra turns. Awesome. Next extra turn, next turn. Oh, okay, cool, yeah, another extra turn spell. And maybe in that time, if it was like a time warp that didn't exile, you could, like, get it back out of your graveyard, recast it. Yeah, there's a lot of crazy things that you can do with this. I mean, even outside of extra turns, you can still do some very powerful things, just copying the first instant source spell you cast each turn. Like, Sure, you can go auto tribal this. You can also go auto tribal this, so keep that in mind. Yes, I should mention that. But, I mean, if I'm seeing this on the other side of the table, it's just you're probably running like an Anhelo essentially kind of deck. Anhelo. The one that's basically like, hey, yeah, you casualty, copy instant sorceries, your first one that you cast. So, being able to just, yeah, do that, that's pretty crazy. Keep in mind, again, I believe it says, look, it says cast the first one other than you cast this turn. Again, it says this turn. I want to make sure I said that right. This turn, not just on your turn. Which means that on your opponent's turns, you can also copy your instance as well. So, like, you're doubling up a Fact or Fiction by giving your opponent one card. Yeah, that's quite good, especially since you get to pick that opponent, again, target opponent. So you can make buddies with somebody hey, let's be friends, all right? Let's be friends. I'll cast a Fact or Fiction. You give me some favorable cards out there, and I will give you a card. Cool. Thank you. So, yeah, you can definitely make friends with this one. That seems very powerful. Again, I think... because it does say otter, like this is one of those cards that can throw some people off when it's like, that's not that powerful because it's otters. Ignore the otter part and just be like, oh, okay, yeah, this can just double up in sorceries. That's crazy powerful, especially when you're in blue. Extra turns. You basically win if you get one off, most likely. And again, like once you get like later in the game, you can cast something that gives you 2 extra turns. And you're like, oh, okay, now I have 4. I win. Or expropriate. You win. Okay, moving on. Lily Splash Mentor, a 4/4 frog druid with reach for 4 mana in Simic. Pay 1 in Simic colors. Exile another target creature you control. They return to the battlefield. Under its owner's control, they counter on it. Activate the sorcery. Wizards, what have you done? Yeah. Wizards. Okay, I will say that I screenshot these quickly as I could. I didn't read through. I mean, like I kind of skimmed some of them. I didn't read through them before I actually started the camera. Why, Wizards? Peregrine Drake. Just, I mean, a lot of other things too, but okay, does it combo with Deadeye Navigator? Yes. It's close to comboing with this then. I mean, not quite, because it is an extra green mana, right? So there is that extra limitation. It's only sorcery speed, but it is bringing that creature back right away. It doesn't require a tap ability for this extra work. Again, it is just a pay mana into it. You do it. I mean, I guess there's other ones out there too, like that Unicorn, and also draws the Displacer. But do we really need more of these? I don't know if we need more of these. So, yeah, this is a combo engine for the right deck out there. Again, Peregrine Drake, very easy to combo with not infinite counters on it, because you're going to be losing those counters on it too, but still. I guess there are certain counter synergies you can work with, though. It is only sorcery speed, so keep that in mind. You can't, like, in reaction to someone being like, I destroy a creature, you're like, oh, wait. No. Okay. But still, yeah, extra thing that combos like all those other ones. Oh, gosh. Okay, moving on. Glarb. What a name. Glarb. This is our king. Glarb. Huh? Okay. Glarb Calamity's Augur. A 2/4 frog wizard noble for 3 mana insult die. Death Touch. Cool. You may look at the top card of your library anytime. Love those kinds of commanders. You may play lands and cast spells with mana value 4 or greater for the top of your library. Love it. Tap Surveil too. Okay. I like that. I mean, like, did it really need to have Death Touch? Probably not. But, yeah, just being able to play off the top of your library like a Future Sight type commander. I love that. And then keep in mind, it is play lands, cast spells with mana value 4 or greater. So you can still play the lands, which is great. So you're not just stuck on lands. And, like, big mana tribal deck? Yes, sign me up for that. You could, like, Karuga Companion with this one. I mean, it has to be, again, above. I think Karuga's 3 or above. This is 4 or above, basically, for you to get that value. Though, again, that Surveil is built in to be like, okay, like, I don't want those cards. Or, like, I can't play those cards. I would probably build this where the vast majority of cards in the deck, if not all the cards in the deck, were 4 or greater just for fun times. Probably not the most powerful build. You probably need, like, a little bit less than that, like, you know, some ramp spells probably have to be a little bit lower than that. That being said, yeah, big spell, tribal fun times. Yeah. Have a great time with this one. Surveil too, that's quite nice on the tap, because there's also a lot of ways, of course, in these colors to untap this dude. Again, like Retreat to Coral Helm, ETB, whenever land ETBs, they say landfall. Untap target creature, cool. Just play your land for the turn. Great, cool. Untap, do it again. Being able to filter off the top of your deck to get to what you want. Obviously, you can utilize other things like Ghoul Caller's Bell, other kinds of scry effects too. Yeah, other kinds of untap effects. Chalk and Retriever under your casting spells you untap as well. So, Seedborn Muse, if you got the budget for it, that kind of stuff as well. So, yeah, a lot of exciting things. That one really ugly card. I mean, not ugly, but you know, some of them from Lorwyn just look very strange back in the day. The one that's like 5 mana and Simic that untaps all green and blue creatures on untap steps, that would work as well for you. Like just being able to like surveil multiple times with each trip around the table can be amazing. Like very basically surveil 8 essentially. Like if you can untap this on each turn. And keep in mind, like, you can play into graveyard shenanigans with this as well, or like get like instants and sorceries in your graveyard that have like flashback, jumpstart, that kind of thing too. Yeah, reanimation, fun times for all. A really cool commander. I think this one's gonna be pretty popular. Next up, this might be popular. Igra, Eaterval. Not sure if that's the name or not, but here we go. 6/6 Elemental Cat for 5 mana in Golgari. Ward, sacrifice a food. When I first read that, I was like, okay, well, no one's ever going to have food, so this is basically just hexproof. We'll get to why that's not the case right now. Other creatures are food, artifacts, dish for other types, and have pay 2, sacrifice this permanent, tap sacrifice permanent, you gain 3 life, basically. Turns everything into food as well. It doesn't take away that it being a creature or its other types or whatever its abilities. It just says, like, you also can be sacrificed because to this elemental cat, it can eat everything, apparently. It's like, I'm going to eat you, I'm going to eat you, I'm going to eat you. Whenever a food is put into a graveyard from the battlefield, put 2 counters on Yagara, Eaterval. I think I said Yagara. It's definitely not that. Igra? Whatever. Anyways, so basically, every creature in play, including your own, including your opponents, including tokens, non-tokens, does not matter what kind of creature it is, everything's a food, which makes them artifacts, and obviously, too, like when they're from the graveyard, any of them, anything gets the graveyard that's a food, any creatures, or just food themselves. This gets 2 counters. This can become very massive very quickly against a 6/6 already for just 5 mana. It's very easy to become a 2-shot KO, if not even a 1-shot KO as a commander, which is quite nice. Like, literally, if you have, like, a board wipe that's, like, destroy all creatures with power less than this thing's power, or whatever it is, those exist, obviously. Or just, like, destroy every creature but this one, or everyone sacrifices a couple creatures. All those creatures are foods, so all you need to do is get them to sacrifice, what? Like 8 creatures, or I mean, including yourself, because that would be an extra 16 counter spins at 22, being a 1-shot KO on anyone, which you can probably get through on someone then. Like if you cast Barter in Blood, which I think is everyone sacrifices 2, this becomes a 1-shot KO if every single player had 2 creatures in play to sacrifice. And again, a player might just be unlucky and not have any blockers left, and then this comes through and takes them out. On top of that, there are certain synergies that you can really play into that are like, hey, whenever an artifact hits the graveyard, like, Fangren Marauder or something like that, you gain 5 life. Yeah, anytime any creature dies, you gain 5 life. That's lovely. Your life total is going to be absolutely absurd in no time. Also keep in mind, I think there's that one, and that might go up in price again. Goodness gracious. There's that one green enchantment I think costs 3, and it's like whenever an artifact hits the graveyard under an opponent, or an artifact opponent controls hits the graveyard, you draw a card. Now all their creatures are artifacts. Lovely. Keep that in mind. You also can do some pretty mean things, I'm sure, like, what's that? Collector Oof? Is that the one? One that shuts down artifact abilities, essentially. So it's like, oh, okay, everything's an artifact. Okay, you can't do those things. Ha, 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 ha. So yeah, there's some weird, like, artifact shenanigans that you can do with this. On top of just, like, hey, whenever artifacts hit the graveyard, punish opponents, gain life, whatever it is, gain card advantage. Yeah, this seems like a decently powerful commander. I mean, pretty specific in what it does, but, like, again, just takes one, like, edict effect to really just turn this into a 1-shot KO. I mean, double edict effect, or, like, you know, board wipe. You got plenty of ways to get your opponents with something like this. Absolutely lovely. Also, counter synergies can, of course, work very well with this. If you just have, like, a Hardened Scales in play that's, like, 3 counters instead of 2. Doubling Season, obviously, very, very good, too. Yeah, life gain synergies can work, too. A lot of potential for this one as well. A really cool design. Next up, Cackling Whit. We're going to do this one really quick because this one was leaked. It is apparently legitimate. 4-starring loyalty. Cast a creature spell, get a low to counter on it. +1. Make a 1/1 otter with prowess. -3, draw 3, discard 2. -10, draw 3 cards. You can emblem with instant spell cast. You have instant source spells you cast have Storm. That's absurd. Storm Scale is named that for a reason because Storm is broken, and now all your sorceries have Storm. Obviously, you can win in a variety of ways from there. Like I mentioned earlier, yeah, extra turn spell. You pretty much just win if you're storming off, then you cast an extra turn spell that has Storm. There you go. Next up, Season of Weaving. Sorcery for 6 mana. Sorry for the screenshot the wrong time. Choose up to 5 paw worth of modes. I'm assuming, so this, I want to say that I did read this one before. I do like the design of this one. I'm assuming, like, the paw is probably going to change depending on, like, the set that we are in. I would assume just like the planeswalker symbol thing, the magic symbol is probably what's going to be like for like a Let's say it's in like a Modern Horizon set. It'd probably just be like that as a standard symbol. That being said, this is more like kitschy and fun that it's a paw. Anyways, choose up to 5 paw worth of modes. You may choose the same mode more than once. 1 paw, draw a card. 2 paws, choose an artifact, creature you control, create a token's copy of it. 3 paws, return each non-land non-token permanent to its owner's hand. Very interesting. So this one you can like kind of like pick and choose your own adventure, but it's not like it's a modal spell, but it is a very specific modal spell. It's not that like, okay, you get 3 choices, you can pick the same mode more than once. It's like, no, you get 5 paws and you can spread that out however you want. So like if you want to draw 5 cards, you can, which is quite nice. Just be like, oh, I really need like to draw cards of this. I don't have any creatures in play or artifacts in play that I really want to copy. I don't need to bounce things. So cool, I'll do that. Obviously with that last one, like return each non-land non-token permanent to its owner's hand, you're not going to be choosing that twice, and you can't anyways, and you wouldn't anyways. But yes, being able to draw cards, create tokens of things. You can create 2 tokens, draw 1 card. Being like pick and choose, I like that. I like the design a lot. So that's a pretty cool way to go about a new modal spell. Obviously, in those kind of like I think Riku's the modal commander these days, right? Any kind of a modal commander, obviously will love this, but also just, it's a nice card. Like it can be like a board wipe. It can be card advantage. It can be, yeah, copying things. Like Brutaclad could utilize it as well. Or like my weird Gigantha Populate deck could use it too. But yes, being able to, yeah, do that, that's pretty cool. I like that a lot. So I hope we see more of this kind of design. Next up, Artist Talent. Also back is Classes. Enchantment class. For 2 mana in red, whenever you cast a non-creature spell, you may discard a card. If you do draw a card, that's quite nice. That can apply to a lot of decks out there, actually. So again, it is discard, then draw, so it is rummage, not loot. It is technically worse than looting because you are giving up on the card first before drawing. You could draw into a worse card, yes, but still, nice additional card selection for you. It's lovely. And again, it is May, so keep that in mind. It's not forced. So like if you're down to like your last card, you don't have to like lose it to get something potentially worse. That being said, I mean, yeah, there's a lot of like spell slinger type strategies out there that could absolutely love this. I mean, Enchantress decks, I guess, could use it too. It's an enchantment itself. But yeah, artifact decks, like just Joyrud type artifact decks, like, oh, okay, cool. Yeah, do a bunch of crazy things with artifacts, dig down deeper into my deck. Yeah, that could definitely, if I ever played that deck anymore, could definitely see playing that one. The level 2 is also incredible. Yeah, again, leveling this up, absolutely crazy. Non-creature spells you cast cost 1 to cast, so pay 2 in a red to do that. Yeah, that's worth the investment. Reducing the cost of all those non-creature spells that you then get to rummage with. Crazy good. Again, especially with artifacts again, which you can then just reduce their cost down. Generic mana, reducing down potentially even to 0, so you cast them for free. 3rd level, if a source you control deal non-combat damage to an opponent or a permanent opponent controls, it deals that much damage plus 2 instead. Yeah, nice. For again, this is not, that one's not for like every kind of deck out there. Like I'd say like the first like level and the second level are for a lot more decks out there. Like again, like spell slinging. I mean, spell slinging, absolutely crazy. Storm type decks, artifact type decks, absolutely crazy and potentially broken. The last one's more like group slug type strategies slash pinger type strategies slash like burn type strategies as well. There are a decent amount of those out there, but like you don't have to be like, oh, well, I'm not going to include this in my deck because like I'm not going to use level 3. Don't worry about that. Like if you literally have, again, like an artifact deck, this is going to be amazing in it. Not artifact creature, I'm saying, but like artifact specific deck, like my Jory deck. Or a spell slinger type deck. You don't have to worry about that. But again, yeah, if you do want that level 3, absolutely include it as well. Next up, Flubs the Fool. Interesting. 0/5 Frog Scout. It looks like it's going to be walking off a cliff accidentally, and the little insect's like, no, what are you doing? And he's like, I'm just singing and not paying attention. 3 mana in Teamer. You may play a land on each of your turns. Nice. Whenever you play a land or cast a spell, draw a card if you have no cards in hand. Otherwise, discard a card. What? What? That's cool. Okay. Yeah, I didn't read this one beforehand, but that's cool. I mean, interesting. I mean, you're just going to be going through your hand in like no time at all, because again, like anytime you play a land, which you can play 2 in a turn, if you have a hand, you're going to be discarding that hand in no time at all. But then once you get down to no cards in hand, you get to draw an additional card. That's cool. Obviously, like a free discard outlet could be amazing with this as well. To be like, oh, okay, I don't really like anything in my hand right now. Let's discard down. So then I'll play my land, get my 2 cards. Cool. Use those or whatever. Or, oh, I don't like this one. Discard away. Draw, play another land, get extra cards, play spells, get extra cards. It's interesting. It's very interesting. And if you're staying like low, if you're staying like almost no cards in your hand, you start playing spell after spell after spell, you are able to like churn through some spells. There's some crazy things you can do with this one. Yeah, this could be quite fun. A very, very fun design for this. I believe it's the buy a box promo, but very, very fun design on this one. Okay, one more, and then I believe we're going to be talking about the commander that I'm going to be highlighting in this episode. Thunder Trap Trainer. This one's a bundle promo, I guess. I don't know. 1/2 Otter Wizard for 2 mana in blue. Offspring 4. So again, make a 1/1 copy of it if you pay extra 4. When this creature enters, look at the top 4 cards of your library. You may reveal a non-creature non-land card from one and put in your hand, with the rest of the bottom of your library in random order. I mean, Wizard Tribal might want to consider this one. Again, a populate deck might want to consider it too, because again, if you are populating that token copy of this, you are able to very easily use and abuse that to get a lot of, again, non-creature, non-land. So that is more like spell slinger type strategy that's going to be considering this. 6 mana is a good amount to actually have to invest to get like 2 copies of this, but you are getting like not 2 copies, that's the original and then the copy of it. You are getting 2 card advantage out of it most likely. Interesting. I'd say it's an interesting card. Again, like an ETB deck can use this too, obviously, because you can just like blink it and then use that too. It's an interesting card. Yeah, I mean, outside of Wizards, I mean, yeah, it's an interesting card. Let's go with that. Next up. Okay, wait, I messed up. Anyways, we're not dead to that one card. They did do additional, like, really cool art for some of these commanders that already exist. Not commanders, legendary things that already exist. So, Planeswalkers like Tameo, cool. Jace as well as a fox, cool. Sword of Fire, nice, cool. But now we get to the commander that I'm going to dread seeing on the other side of the table, because Maha, let's go with that. It's Feathers Knight. Okay, kind of sounds like an Eldrazi way of writing things. Maha, it's Feathers Knight. Like, it that betrays. 6/5 Elemental Bird, legendary creature. Again, a commander that I'm going to fear. 5 mana in black, Flying Trample. Ward, discard a card. Okay, here we go, though. Creatures your opponents control base toughness 1. Now, we did see, oh gosh, we did see on the teaser episode the other day that Morrow did say creatures opponents control base toughness 1. I can almost say power toughness. It's just a habit. Base toughness 1 does not affect power. And I did speculate that this is probably on a commander. Maybe I even said that I thought it should be on a commander because it's like this kind of a weird thing. It could be exciting. Yeah, I mean, just because it's like a cool thing to have on a commander doesn't mean that I'd be looking forward to playing against it, because, oh my gosh, that's brutal. That is just, okay. Everyone's creatures, except for yours, are so fragile. Incredibly fragile. Literally anything takes them out. Any damage, anything at all takes them out. And the way that you're going to build around this commander does not really care about taking them out in that way, most likely. You do not care about combat because you do not need... I mean, you'll have combat. Your opponents won't. Your opponents won't have any creatures ever. You will literally make it so your opponents either can't get creatures in play, or once they get into play, they are gone automatically. Yeah, this is very brutal. Very, very brutal. I mean, luckily it's in mono black, so that like does limit... I do say that right now, but... like other gross commanders have existed in the past that have still been pretty popular, like Turgid, that are mono. Yeah, this is a mono-colored commander that is gross, brutal. You can do a lot of crazy things with it. And again, it's one that can really, like, lock down the board. And an opponent, like, trying to deal with this will have to discard a card to do so. I mean, that's not a non-cost. That's, like, opponents can. It's very hurtful to do that, but, like, opponents are probably going to have cards to be able to do that. That being said, if you have ways to protect it, that's even more brutal. We're like, aha, I'm dealing with it. And you're like, no. By the way, discard that card still. Thank you. Yeah, pretty crazy for a 6/5 flampling. It doesn't really even need flampling again because, I mean, it's interesting that it does have flampling because, like, if you're not taking opponent's creatures, if you do swing and they block, it's like they're only blocking 1 toughness per creature, so the trample really gets through on them. That being said, again, most likely, they're not going to have any creatures at all. Gross. So yeah, let's talk about this gross commander that I think is going to be pretty popular, and I'm not going to want to see on the other side of the table, and what kind of cards work really well with it. So let's start things off with the budget buys. Again, cards that are within my budget. If you're interested in any of these cards, make sure you check out that card listing in the description below. The budget buys less than $1. Price your picks. I'll get to them here in a little bit. More than $1. This is the first card I thought of. Karavek the Spiteful. Yeah, basically game over for your opponents until they deal with what you're doing. I will say that, sure, if they have, like, their own anthems in play that pump their creatures, they can get around this, but you're going to have enough ways to make their creatures get smaller that they're just going to lose. All right, other creatures get -1/-1. Very, very specific. That's all this does. Literally, that's all this does. And that's all that matters, because again, your commander says your opponent's creatures have toughness 1, which means that they're going to be tiny. They're going to be tiny. And it just takes one little boop for them to go down to 0. And once they're at 0, they're gone. So, yeah, having this in play equals your opponent's creatures will get -1 power, but also have toughness basically 0. So they all are just gone automatically. And then if they get any more into play that don't come into play with like counters or anything on them, they're just gone too. So keep that in mind. Knight of Soul's Betrayal. Legendary enchantment. All creatures get -1/-1. Yep, that's also an incredibly good card with this deck. Even specific cards, like, Dread of Night, is still going to be a great card in this deck, potentially. Enchant for a single black mana. White creatures get -1/-1. Yep. Basically, all you need to do is just say, like, oh, okay, cool. Hey, are you playing a mono white deck over there? Oh, are you playing, like, a Selesnya deck? Most of your creatures are gone. Or all your creatures are gone. Even though, again, this is pretty specific, it's probably worth just keeping it in there because, like, you can shut out certain players in combination with your commander and this. Ascendant of Vinkar, I can never say that right. 3/3, flying. Other black creatures get ++1. Non-black creatures get -1/-1. You gotta be a little careful with this one. Obviously, if your opponents have black creatures as well, they're pumped instead of taken down. That being said, if you're playing against all non-black creatures, yeah, you're taking all those out. You're also pumping your own creatures too, turning your commander into a 3-shot KO, so do keep that in mind. Next up, Black Sun Zenith. Yeah, also, -1/-1 counters work really well. You even just have to put 1 mana into this, just 1. Well, for 1 for the X, I should say. 1 black, and then you're going to get 1 counter on each creature, shuffled back to Zor's library. So 1 -1/-1 counter on each creature equals your opponent's creatures are gone. Yours are slightly, smaller, but not really by all that much. The shuffle, so you can use it again at some point, most likely, if you draw back into it or tutor it, obviously. But yeah, or like if you need to, if your commander has been dealt with, you can just like put a lot into this to like take all creatures out. Or again, before your commander's even in play, you can get that counter on all creatures, and then all of a sudden get your commander out and wipe out those creatures by changing their toughness. Nausea. Very simple, very effective. Sorcery for 2 mana. All creatures get -1/-1 till end of turn. Yeah, your opponent's creatures are just gone. They are just gone. That is all that matters. They are gone. Next up, we've got Plague Dogs. It's a 3/3 hound for 5 mana that is very, very useless in many decks out there, but in this deck, it can be very good. Because when it dies, all creatures get -1/-1 till end of turn. That's all that needs to happen. If this gets taken out, all your opponent's creatures get taken out. By paying 2, you can sacrifice to draw a card as well, so you gotta sacrifice it yourself. Or, Phyrexian Plague Lord, a very good card in this deck. A 4/4 Phyrexian Carrier for 5 mana. Tap, sacrifice the target creature gets -4/-4 until end of turn. That's a bit rich for my blood because you don't really need to do that because, again, all your opponent's creatures have toughness 1. So sacrifice any creature, target creature gets -1/-1 until end of turn. And this basically sacrifice a creature, take out a creature. That's all you need to do. Absolutely gross. Of course, works very well with any kind of triggers that happen when creatures die. Yeah, you can use like some aristocrat style benefits from this as well. We'll get to this here in a second. After we talk about Grasping Dunes, that's right. Allstar Land apparently in this deck. It's a desert, tap for a colorless, or pay 1, tap, sacrifice, put a -1/-1 counter target creature, activate only time you cast a sorcery. Basically, again, just, hey, it's a land that can take out literally any creature on the board that your opponents have. That's absolutely crazy. Or like, prepare them to be taken out again if your commander's not in play yet. Cool, do so. Next up, Valkyrie Noble. Of course, again, like aristocrat style benefits, it can really help you. Whenever it or the creature dies, target player loses 1 life, you gain 1 life. You're going to be taking your opponent's creatures a lot throughout the game. Drain your opponents constantly with this. Again, literally, if you just like get your commander out, get out Karavac essentially. Okay, you just wiped out 10 plus creatures, whatever it is. Oh, awesome. Drain you 10. Awesome. Really good. Obviously, even better with Ogre Slumlord. Another creature dies, you may create a 1/1 rat black creature token. Black rat creature token. Rats, you control Death Touch. So, yeah, Death Touch really doesn't matter all that much with this kind of a commander. But what matters is whenever any creature dies, not just your own, you are getting a 1/1. So, all of a sudden, all your opponent's creatures die. You get creatures to replace them. Works really well, especially with aristocrat style benefits. Harvester of Souls. Whenever another non-token creature dies, you may draw a card. It is non-token, but it does count your opponent's creature, so keep that in mind. Yeah, again, this is like draw 10 plus cards as soon as you get like your combination and play your commander plus your, minus anthem, negative anthem, bad anthem. I don't know what we call it. Anyways, in play as well. So yeah, you can do a lot of crazy things. Next up, I kind of forgot about this card because it's never been anywhere near budget friendly, and it still isn't. $35 for the Meat Hook Massacre. Yeah, if you have the budget for this one, very good, this commander. Enters the battlefield, each creature gets -X till turn. Whenever a creature you control dies, you don't lose 1 life. Creature you control dies, you gain 1 life. Basically, again, just put 1 mana into that X, and all of a sudden, all your opponent's creatures are gone, and you gain a lot of life off of this. And if your creatures ever die, you drain your opponent's creatures as well. Blood Artist, yeah, very, 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 always close to being budget, and then it goes back up, and then it gets reprinted, and then it stays not out of budget. Oh, please get under $1, please. Basically, exact same thing as Valkyrie Noble. Very, very good card. Gisa, Glorious Resurrector. If a creature opponent controls would die, exile instead. Be careful with this one. I will say, this is one that I want to urge people to be careful. If you have a lot of opponent's creatures die, you get this benefit. Don't include this, because this just nixes all of your death triggers. At the beginning of your upkeep, put all creature cards exile with it on the battlefield under control. They gain decayed. It's a nice way to steal a bunch of opponent's things, though. And with that, we'll get to another card that lets you do that too. Black Market. Whenever a creature dies, put a charge counter on it. At the beginning of your pre-combat main phase, a black free charge counter on it. This counts any creature dying, not just your own. So, yeah, wipe out your opponent's creatures, get an absurd amount of mana on this, do crazy things. Speaking of absurd amounts of mana, Revel in Riches. Whenever a creature an opponent controls dies, create a colorless treasure artifact token. We don't need to describe what treasures do anymore, right? We know what they do. You just get a bunch of treasures. And on top of that, at the beginning of your upkeep, you control 10 or more treasures, you win the game. Ouch. So, yeah, it's an alternative win condition or just a great engine for additional potential, temporary ramp, I should say. Masac Worm, creature opponent controls die, that player loses 2 life. Cool. They lose a lot of life from this. Oh, and by the way, when this enters the battlefield, creature opponent control get -2/-2 until end turn. So in combination with your commander, this is all your creatures are gone, and you all lose 2 life per creature. So this can be a game-ending card for you for sure. Finally, Rise of the Dark Realms. Yeah, a card that's never going to be budget-friendly, most likely. 9 mana, put all creatures from all graveyards on the battlefield to control. Again, you are working to control the board. You're working to take all your opponent's creatures out. You're working to make it so your opponents can't even play creatures. After you wipe your opponent's creatures out, though, you might as well use them because they're not using them. Gain control of all those creatures out of graveyards. They're not affected by your commander anymore because they're on your side. And all of a sudden, wipe out your opponent's own creatures. What's not to love about that? But yeah, Maha, it's Feathers Night. Crazy commander. I'm not excited to play against that one. That's going to be quite scary. That and the otter again. Oh my goodness. I think some players might underestimate that one just because it's well, I double up an otter spell. Big deal. It's no, extra turns. We lose. Yeah, a lot of crazy cards. If you are interested in the cards I did mention on this episode that were called Maha, make sure you check out that card list link in the description below. Make sure you're staying tuned for more exciting quick take spoilers and more on this channel. And again, if you haven't yet, make sure you check out that Kickstarter that I'm going to be running at some point in the near future. Make sure you follow that one and follow the channel for updates on that too. I'm really excited about it. I've never actually made my own game up until now. I've been dreaming about it for years, and I finally actually went through it, so I'm pretty excited if you can't tell. So let me know what your thoughts are on this in the comments below. And of course, as always, thanks again, and have a good one. This show and episodes like this one are possible thanks to viewers like you. If you're looking for an easy way to help support this show, make sure that you like, share, and subscribe. Also, hit that bell notification icon so you don't miss any new episodes. You can also go check out our playmats and other merchandise at thecommandersquarters.com. We also have a ton of brand new t-shirt designs in stock, so make sure you check out those as well. Another easy way to support this show is with our TCG player affiliate links. So whether you're buying a deck or individual cards, you can use this general link right here or one in the description. And the final way that you can support this show is by supporting us directly by becoming a patron. There are many benefits to being a patron, and I truly couldn't do this without all of their support.